to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen.
With me today is life coach and LOA teacher Joel Elston.
This is your daily dose of happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today.
You know, Joel, as I was listening to the intro there and thinking about stuff that's been going on in both of our lives, I mean, you brought me up to date on stuff going on with you, and there's stuff I haven't told you about going on with me. Nothing earth-shattering, but it occurs to me that the topic is perfect because the topic is about taking action in the face of all of the reality that comes our way.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it comes flying into your face, and sometimes it just whispers behind your ear, but man, it just keeps coming and coming. So that action component plays an even bigger role than I think most of us realize.
One of my favorite topics, and the title of my hopefully one day book, The Law of Action.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that one. One of these years, right?
Yeah, one of these years we'll get there. So yeah, the thing for me, you and I have talked about this in the early days of us working together and sort of learning the law of attraction together.
Right.
There's multiple camps on the process just about action itself.
Oh, yeah.
There are Abraham Hicks has contradictory statements on it as well.
Confusing.
Yeah, very confusing. One time in one book, she says, well, there's really no need for action if you're feeling right. Then later in another book, she says action is actually more powerful than, just thought, as long as it's coupled with the right. So not to try to show discrepancies there, but from my personal experience using the law of attraction, my mindset combined with action is what led to my success. I have never been one personally to sit on the couch and manifest $1 million. That's never worked for me. I can go out and get $1 million, but I have never just sat there and said, "Hey, Joel, here's $1 million," and that's just never happened. And the people that I know, I don't really know anyone else that's ever not taken action. So, not to say it couldn't happen, and maybe just simply because my belief system requires action to be involved. I'm a big fan of action, and sometimes it's any action. And like we were talking, those that know me from Facebook saw my post yesterday. My son was out target shooting, and he had a shooting accident where he didn't have a safety on a gun. He shot into the ground and ricocheted into his thigh. He's fine. He's doing well. He's at home, which is great. But when I got the message that he said, "Dad, I've been shot," that's where my strength lies. That's one of my skill sets. I called him. I walked him through it properly. I mean, logically, I knew I was talking to him. He was conscious. I was able to talk to the EMT. She was keeping up on his vitals. I knew he was going to be okay. There was, the bullet was in his leg, but it was not, it didn't hit anything. Turns out no major arteries, just some muscle damage that will heal. Yeah, which is fantastic. So in the moment of taking the action that I knew right away that okay, I need to go to the hospital. So I found out what hospital they go into. I actually beat them to the hospital, and so my point is in the moment, I it's very emotional. You're worried about your son. It wasn't I wasn't worried, but I was able to. I understand I needed to begin action. First, the action was calming him down, talking to the EMT. Then, as I was driving, trying not to drive too fast over the speed limit, but enough over, where I can get there faster. But my action was to get to the hospital. And then again, so when I got there, he was, had been given apparently some very quality pain medication. So he was smiling and waving, and so he was fine. And so, at seeing him, it was all good. And that's just one example. But when you take action. The post that you got this from is, Albert Einstein's post, nothing happens until something moves. That was his quote, not his post. He didn't post today, by the way.
So I hope not. If he did, that's news.
Yeah, that would be news. But nothing happens unless something moves. So every action is even if it's an action in the wrong direction, begins a process. I use the GPS analogy several times on the show. where your GPS, Google Maps, for example, is really good. I love Google Maps. It'll take you where you need to go. However, it's useless if you just sit in your car. It'll say go straight, go right. But if you just sit there, it has no power.
Right.
But even if you don't know where to go, just start moving and it will turn around and correct that. So I'm very much an action-oriented person to not only achieve what I want to achieve, but able to address life situations, breaking things down into incremental habits. You and I did a show on atomic habits a while back, maybe over a year ago. And I combine action with the concept of incremental actions, such as suggested an atomic habit, as the most efficient way to really deal with anything, grow anything, whatever it is. You got to break it down sometimes into the most basic steps. So again, yesterday I had this concerning call. My son had been shot, and your brain, as many of you know, I lost a son several years ago in an automobile accident. So I'm particularly susceptible to that energy about that. Yeah. But I knew I could not be paralyzed. I could not act irrationally. I had to, so I just used my most basic skill. Got my keys. I knew I needed a charger. I just got when you're in the hospital, one thing for sure, there's a lot of unknowns, but I knew we weren't going to be in the hospital for an hour. I knew we were going to be in the hospital and we were for probably 5 hours.
Right.
And that's just the hospital thing. The staff was great. Everybody was good. The actions that we take are in my mind, are the most powerful thing that we have at our disposal. Mindset is, without the right mindset, those actions can be an exercise in futility. So that's why the combination of the two is where the power exists. The right mindset, having using the concepts of the law of attraction while implementing the action is the success formula that's worked in my life so very well.
While you were talking about that, it occurred to me that we could also be talking about what they often call compartmentalization. Because in a sense, the taking of action that you took was a way of compartmentalizing what happened so that you could do things, so you could deal with it, knowing that there would be an emotional reaction later and you could deal with it later at a time that was appropriate to deal with it.
Right.
So do you think of action as being a method of compartmentalizing?
I'm yes, and I'm even go further sometimes, and this will have a negative connotation, but I'll explain. Action can be an effective sort of dissociation as well, and for those in the clinical world, they're going to say, "What are you talking about?" And I'm not meaning the classical dissociation of somebody with a personality disorder that dissociates, but dissociate like the house is on fire. I could panic about the house being on fire. I could do it. But my mind needs to dissociate from the danger, compartmentalize from the danger, and take that step. Let me assess the situation quickly. Maybe get my wallet, my keys, whatever I have handy. If it's critical, I need to just get out of the house, not worry about anything. Just be able to keep my wits about me is in compartmentalizing or dissociating or just breaking it down incrementally. That's where most people get lost in this process because everything can become overwhelming, and especially in crisis situations, but even in non-crisis situations, things can become overwhelming. And learning how to by default break it down into that next incremental or whatever you need to do. Keep the different compartments separate, take action, and this is applicable to all areas of life.
I'm reminded of what happened in March of 2020, which of course is when the pandemic showed up in our lives in the form of quarantine.
Yes.
Across the globe. And when it showed up, well, first of all, the first thing that I remember about the whole event was when I learned about it for the first time. I didn't hear about it on the news. I wasn't paying attention to the news. Instead, I was at the supermarket. We were buying groceries, and we noticed all of these people were filling up their carts with all kinds of stuff, and we're like, "What on earth is going on?" My initial reaction was there must be a hurricane coming, or
right.
Well, it was a little bit early for hurricane season. Maybe there was a tornado, but we don't get that many tornadoes. I wonder what it could be. Maybe there's a windstorm coming through. I figured it had to be something weather related. And then I heard somebody say something about a disease or an illness or a virus or something like that. And that's when I realized, oh, there's some kind of event going on. And I wonder what that event is. And so I pulled out the phone, quick look at the news, saw that there was this thing going on about a virus that was spreading quickly and causing a lot of deaths and illness and filling up hospitals and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's when it first dawned on me, oh, we're going to be dealing with something here that is heavily fear-based.
Yes.
That's my long-winded way of getting to the fear-based piece, because what I witnessed in the store that day was a whole lot of people very calmly panicking.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's really what was happening. People were, I guess there was probably a dissociation going on. I'm not sure how much of a dissociation there really was, because they were clearly in panic mode. You could just tell from all the things they felt like they had to just buy up the store because they didn't know how long they were going to be locked up at home. But they were quiet and peaceful about it. They were moving around the store very gently, very calmly. Oh, excuse me, all this kind of thing. And all in panic mode. And the other thing I remember about it, there was a really high level of fear in the air. You could smell it.
Yes.
There was this distinct, thick layer of tension, which I particularly noticed because I wasn't feeling it. I wasn't even aware the thing had been happening. This is the first I even knew about it. And even as I'm hearing about it, part of me was dismissing it. And the other part of me was just kind of looking around like, wow, what are these people panicking for? But the way they were panicking was what was interesting. The fact that they were taking action. They were taking whatever action they felt like they could take at that time. They felt like that it was actually going to put them in their best possible place to get through whatever this was going to be. And they were doing it in the midst of fear.
Yes. And again, even that action within the midst of fear was an action. And I could even argue that while not very productive to do it that way, they needed to take some action to feel they had some control over the scenario. Right. So let me go buy, 8,500 rolls of toilet paper.
Yes.
And somehow I feel that has allowed me, to take control of the scenario. So you're right. And it's funny because on March 13th of 2020, my son and I were at a movie. It was a Vin Diesel movie, opening night. And I don't even remember the movie. And I had no clue any of this was going on. And as we were coming out of the theater, they were taking everything out of the snack bar and they were literally throwing things in trash bins. And it looked really weird. And I asked the guy, so what's going on? He goes, this is the last movie right now. We're shutting down. And I go, oh my goodness, for why? It's because there's this virus and we're going to shut down. So for how long? And he goes, we don't know. And it was like, oh my gosh. And so I was just fascinated by what are they doing? They're throwing away all this stuff. And that was a moment for me. Of course, my mindset is, okay, I'm sure this is overreaction. But I instantly knew by instinct and all the stuff that I've been through in my life, I was going to be fine through this. In fact, I'll figure out a way to leverage this to my advantage, which I did. And, I never sat within a minute of fear. So any action I took was based in, excitement or understanding, because there is one thing that operates in turmoil has two sides. Turmoil, what is lost, what we lose often gives new opportunity. So I didn't know where the opportunity would be, but there's opportunity out there. And I just viewed it differently. I just thought this is sort of exciting. My opinion, our country does have a tendency to just watch the news and panic over whatever we're talking about. The world's falling apart. And says, I don't watch any news at all. This was a total shock to me. And the schools, the following Monday, all the schools had closed. It was a shocking chain of events, but it was like, nonetheless, I was able to, I never missed a day's work. I just kept going to work.
In the topic of taking action in the face of our fears, I want to revisit that for a moment, because again, that was the thing that stood out to me. It was clear to me. The fear was palpable. It was in the air. You could feel it. You could taste it. You could smell it.
Yes.
I mean, and not a little bit. I
Right.
mean, it was a lot. It was, you could cut it with a knife, to use the
Yes.
language, right? It was that thick. And despite all that, people were taking action. They were doing it from fear.
Right.
Maybe not the most ideal way to do it, but they were taking action, which tells me, among other things, either that is something that we have so deeply taught ourselves, so deeply ingrained ourselves, take action when something is going really wrong.
Right.
Either that's what's going on, or, and this is the part that's really fascinating to me, or people were choosing to take action in a way they had never done before.
Yes. Yes.
Which one do you think it was?
I think probably with everything, it seemed, I'm sure there were both of those things going on.
Sure. Yeah.
But new circumstances. So when you're presented with a problem, look, this is sort of humorous with a difficult subject. I have a friend that's a firefighter, and he shows up on the scene of houses that catch on fire in the middle of the night, and the families get out. Fortunately, the majority of families with smoke detectors get out unharmed in fires. But he said one of the things he's always been fascinated about is fires in the house. You're getting the kids out. You're trying to get the animals out, and what people bring out with them.
Yeah.
And he said that, one day this lady had a toaster in her hand. And he's, these people are in the middle of trauma, so he's trying not to laugh about it. But he goes, "Is that a special toaster?" And she goes, "I just had to grab something." She had to take some control or action, and the toaster was just on the way out. Yes. So the human instinct, and this is what is good. And this supports our theory. Action is an instinct. It is like, I need to do something. I need to. Now, action coupled with fear will often lead to actions that don't make much sense, or actions that are not necessarily productive, but they are actions. And that's why the combination of action and mindset, making sure your mindset's in the right direction, action becomes much more powerful in that way. But people do, when the idea that you want some control, you want to take some action. So the unknown, you have all these people out there, they have no idea what's going to go on. Everybody's worried. The first week of the pandemic, the neighborhood was like ghost town. There was nothing. And then a weird thing happened too. About a week into this, at least in my neighborhood, all of a sudden there were 100 kids out on the street riding their bikes and doing it. It was like the families were like, okay, look, you can't lock these kids up. They're not in school. So they had this incredible summer. It's almost like, I've never seen our neighborhood like this. There was kids, they're riding their bikes, they're in the pond. I'm like, well, the kids are taking action. They can't be cooped up. They had to go do something too. And, and it was, by that point, it was pretty much revealed that this probably isn't really a big problem for children. So, plus they're being outside in the sunlight and having all that's probably one of the best things you could possibly be doing. So there are multiple phases of this and people's perspective, but you're right. The tangible fear of, there's no way that we could have ever, and I still don't understand the dynamics of why toilet paper became such the currency of the time, but it was big. Toilet paper. I mean, one day we're going to talk about why did people need, toilet paper so much. It was just crazy.
Well, I think I know why people went after the toilet paper. I think they went after it because they heard it was a virus. And so they associated it with any common virus they'd ever had. They had the runs. They had to deal with all the
okay. That's a good point.
So, okay, well, then we got better stock up on toilet paper because God knows how long this one's going to last.
Yes. Well, and fortunately for me, an action that I'd taken about 2 weeks before that, twice a year, maybe 3 times a year, I go to Costco and I get gigantic amount of toilet paper and paper towels.
No, so you already had your supply.
So I look like a fortune teller. I mean, I could have kept the whole neighborhood alive with toilet. I buy a bunch, and because I buy it 2 times a year. That's what I basically do. So I was able to give my neighbors a lot, and but the action taking is on a more global scale for us, and no matter what it is, the fear or the excitement or whatever your attitude influence the action itself. Sometimes the actions are defensive. Sometimes the actions are, you're like, I just know going forward that the action that I have to take, no matter what. Yesterday, I had to do these steps to get to the hospital to see my son. It just, I was not upset on the way there. I was confident. I knew that was my only action I could do. The outcome of this was out of my control. So my part is to put all my energy in the action of what I have to do. And that's what I did. And I was able to get, it's an effective way to do it. And that's what, when years ago when I lost my job / quit my job at the previous company that I worked for and started my own, I did, when that Saturday morning, when that job was over, I was not prepared for any new idea. I didn't know what it was, but I also knew that there was going to be some action I would take and it would work out fine. I knew that because, you and I discovered that together sort of. And I had no clue how this would work out, but I was never worried. And I said, and I also decided I hadn't had a day off in forever. So I'm going to take a week off before even my action was taking a week off before I took any action.
Which is a cool kind of action, by the way.
Yeah, that was a great action. And of course we know that then I started my private practice and, became far more successful than I was working with that company. So it's like, wow. I mean, it all worked out, but was there ever a moment I was a little like, ooh, I'm a little anxious? Maybe, but I didn't really think about it. I just knew that whatever's come, it's always worked out for me before. So there's no chance this isn't going to work out for me this time. Don't know how. And I didn't know I was going to start my own private practice. I didn't know there was no life coaches in Richmond at the time. I didn't know that was even a thing you could do.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, here we are.
It's an interesting point too. It also occurs to me that the experience that you had is, in a sense, it's reflective of what happens when you have that positive mindset. But like you said, the mindset has to be the right mindset. It has to be not the mindset of grabbing the toaster on the way out the door, but grabbing the car keys. I mean,
yes.
And we already know that when you have taken the time to build your own mindset, to grow it, to do all the things that you need to do, when the time comes and you need to have that mindset, it's so much easier to find it, to reach it, to grab it. Right.
Yes, absolutely.
So that becomes a cautionary tale. It becomes a way of saying, work on your mindset before you need it.
To me, one of my morning routine strategies, I don't leave the house without my right mindset.
Okay.
Preparing mindset is the key to every day of my life. If I wake up and I'm feeling like, okay, this isn't going well, or I haven't had a good day here, or like you and I were talking before the show, my last few Mondays have been just absolutely bizarre.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, just all kind of stuff happening, and so I've always said I love Mondays, and I do love Mondays. But as I told you, Mondays haven't recently loved me, with things. But nonetheless, I was able to. I'm able to adjust my mindset about what is the point of all this. Well, I don't want to leave out of here with a negative mindset. So I getting up in the morning, I adjust my mindset, whether that's through meditation, watching certain, motivational videos, or listening to some of our favorites, law of attraction people. I do all that stuff, and then I leave with the right mindset and an anticipation of here's where we're going. Here's what we're bringing to the table a little later. And I was able to make right mindset decisions yesterday because of my mindset had been prepared for the day.
Well, not just for the day. You've been preparing your mindset for the day for forever.
But I do it every single day. I renew my mindset. So I also know through historical fact and a lot of evidence, I have survived absolutely everything that any human being could go through and come out okay. So no matter what's going to come at me, I have that. I have to keep my mindset to remind myself of that, because that's when I could go sideways and either become panicked or get stuck in that negative spiral. And the worst thing that could happen yesterday if I would have got into that negative spiral.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Because you get in that negative spiral, it could have taken you in all kinds of
Yes.
unproductive, counterproductive
Yes.
directions
Yes.
all at the same time.
Absolutely. And
Yes.
that makes a big difference. And it's really important to understand that your mindset dictates your reality. I say that frequently, as you know.
Mhm.
And your reality is literally a mindset based concept. Whether you believe you have a great life or a terrible life is all mindset based.
Yeah. What's the Henry Ford line? It says, whether you think you can do it or whether you think you can't, something along that line. Either way, you're right.
Yes.
I can't remember what the exact phrase is, but it's something along that line.
You capitalize that. You put that in a nutshell well. But yes, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
So there's another takeaway, I think, in here, which is it almost, I'm going to emphasize almost, it almost doesn't matter if you have not had a practice of controlling your mindset every day, because in a sense, we all have experiences that we've gone through where we know we've come out at the end, we've come through it.
Right.
So even if you have a whole series of them and you've never worked on your mindset, it occurs to me, well, you do have all these experiences that say you've come through it at the end. You've got something you can lean on that tells you I can get through all this stuff.
Yes.
So therefore, if I am willing to do it, I still, even though I haven't done it so far, I still can develop a positive mindset every single day.
Every single day.
I have been through stuff. It's kind of we've talked a lot in the past about how the older we get, the more baggage we have, so it becomes harder and harder.
Yes.
To shift, which I think is true. I think it's true because I've experienced it, so that's why I think it's true. But by the same token, there's also the flip side of it, which is we have been through all this crap. That crap actually does enable us to make the changes that we haven't been able to make up until that point in time.
Yes.
It actually gives us fuel to do that. And I think this kind of helps explain why it is we live in and love this world of contrast so much. Because let's be honest, we are contrasters. We love the drama as humans. We're into the drama. We're into the contrast. We're into the negativity. People love watching the car crashes. They love they love watching all this kind of negative stuff. And I think the reason why is the more we go into that negative stuff, the more that we experience it, the more we pay attention to it, preferably from afar. That's the way most of us want to experience it. We don't want to deal with it directly in our own lives. We just want to see it playing in somebody else's life. But the more that we experience it vicariously, if you will, it seems like it has an additive component to it, an additive value, so that as you get more and more and more of it, you finally get to the point where you say, enough, I don't want that in my life. I want X instead.
Yes.
And when we're stuck, it's just we haven't gotten to that last statement. I want X instead. We're still in I don't want. We haven't gotten to that X instead. But something about going through all this crap over and over again, there seems to be something about it that kind of pushes us.
Well, I got to reset my internet. I'm losing you. Can you I'll get right back on.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we'll bring you back in another minute. But this to me this is a key point. This is a point that has come up over and over and over again here on the show over the years. Why is it that we dive into these crazy patterns of contrast and we live in these situations where we're saying, no, I really don't like that. I really don't like that. And we keep up, attracting more and more of what we don't really like. And we get in this endless cycle of, right, that downward spiral thing. And yet there does seem to be this purpose to it. If you go deep enough into that spiral, at some point you say enough. That's what I'm trying to identify here. We do tend to do this. We go into the deep, deep spiral. We have the horrible things happen. And then finally say, enough of this. Enough. I want this other result instead. And that's when things start to change. And of course, to tie into the topic that Joel and I are talking about today, that we'll talk about when he gets back in, is the way to take that step once you have identified, I want something else instead, is through the action step. So when he hooks back in, the thing I'm going to ask him next is, okay, if it's really true that we go deep down these spirals, deeper and deeper and deeper until we finally reach our point where we say, I can't take this anymore. I need to have X different result instead. Is that is that like a necessary trigger that we have that encourages us, that entices us, that drives us to say, not only I want something instead, but I want to take the action that goes along with it. Because I have a feeling it's that action component that makes the difference. So Joel is back connected in. What I was talking about while we were waiting for you to reconnect was I was playing out that theme that you and I were just talking about. And I was asking the question, isn't it a fair conclusion that one of the reasons we dive deep into these negative spirals, and let's be honest, we do dive in. I mean, we often feel like we fell into them, but our choices took us there. We dove into these. Wouldn't you say it's true that it's like we need to go to a certain depth, like, and it's a different person's depth every time. Everybody has their own depth. We have to go to a certain depth so we can finally say, enough of this. I want X instead. And once we've said that, that gives us, it's almost like we gave ourselves permission to finally take that action step that you're talking about.
Yes, absolutely.
Like that becomes the driving force. Okay, now I know what I want instead. Now I can take my action.
Absolutely. Yes. And I feel that's, that's a key component as well. When you all of this is a process, as you're pointing out, and you got to develop the process, his historical data, and also trusting the process. It's an overused term right now, but that's all relative. It's what matters.
So if that's the case, that means that what the various metaphysical teachers and spiritual teachers and so forth have been telling us all along is really true. And there are a lot of different ways they've said it. The way I'll say it is, you can't get it wrong.
Right.
You really can't. There is absolutely no, I mean, you can go through misery. You can put yourself into a really bad misery and you can stay there as long as you want. And you can make it deeper and deeper and deeper. But in the final analysis, you can't lose.
Yeah.
It's not possible.
Right.
Even when it seems like you have lost.
Well, I'm, as you know, I believe every loss is just simply leading to the next win. It's just there's never been any events in my life that, obviously didn't bring something forward. Losing one job led me to a better job. No matter what life happened, it's always ended up being this amazing journey that ended up on the other side. So, the winning and losing are the contrast. Again, we always talk about contrast. You mentioned it earlier. The winning and losing piece is simply a perspective. If you really believe that losses are sort of the beginning of a win, as long as you take action and not give up, and as long as that's the case, your mindset remains strong. Losses will become wins. It's never failed me.
Now, one thing that always confused me where this topic was concerned, anytime that you start going toward the edge cases, that's where confusion comes in. That's
sure.
Where people get upset and they think, well, it can't possibly work there and all that kind of stuff. For me, the edge cases had to do with dying or being incapacitated, either paralyzed or terminal illness or something along that line. And I couldn't imagine, how could you possibly come to the conclusion that you were, well, to use the way we're describing it today, that you were going through something that you can't possibly lose at? Because the answer that came to me was, well, of course you lost your life, or you lost your health, or you lost your ability to move, or you lost your lifetime because your lifespan just shortened up or something along that line. And I couldn't get my head around that. How can you do that? How can you possibly face that? And different people have come to different conclusions about that question. I mean, it's one of those that's among the ultimate questions that humans have been asking for generations. Where do we come from is only the beginning of those lists of questions. It's also, why are we going through this? Why are we experiencing this? Is this really necessary? Was this divine plan? Who's the divine planner? Where can I report him? I mean, but you know what I mean.
I do.
It's been something. It's been a part of a series of questions that we've struggled with as a species since the beginning of recorded history. I can't honestly say I have the total answer yet, but I keep pointing to the same one, and that's why I'm bringing this topic up here today. I think it really is a case where we never really lose. Even if we die, we didn't really lose because we never really die. That was a big one for me.
Yeah, that
was a huge one for me, because I thought when we died it was end, game over, we're done. That was
right.
It. And then when I came to the conclusion that wasn't true, that shifted a lot. I think that's true for a lot of people. I mean,
Yes.
you talked about the psilocybin experiences. That's one of the things that comes through in the psilocybin experiences, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm with you in the sense that, you know, it never made sense to me, but I was viewing it from sort of the human mindset. You know, the vessels that we have a tendency to have a limited view because the human body and the human brain can only comprehend what humans have discovered and
Right.
you know and all that. So if you're looking at just that as the fact, yeah, it's not good. We're all going to lose in the end. We're all dying. I mean, nobody's ever escaped that. But my belief system is we're energy. You're unique. Your energy is your energy. My energy is my energy. You cannot kill energy. This shell will wear out. This body's going to wear out, and I hope I die in a spectacularly fun way, and with this body just totally worn out. That's my ultimate goal. But nonetheless, no matter what, when I die, I didn't lose. I have completed this journey, this individual journey, which, by the way, I believe I chose to come live in the first place.
Okay.
So that, again, that's my belief system. But that's not losing to me, because I likely, if my belief system is accurate, I'd likely die and go back to source energy and then just jump right back in and do it all over again. That's my vision of what I have done maybe thousands of times. And people along the way, I'm going to see when I get back that already went on ahead of me are there, and we're probably going to connect again, and let's figure out some crazy scenario that it's almost like a game. How are we going to do it this time? You know, like it's a sort of that escape room kind of game theory. How are we going to do this? And so there really isn't that. And so people that become, I'm not dismissing anybody's misery, or I'm not saying anybody even needs to believe the way I believe, but what if it's all just there as we're here for an average of like 85 years or whatever that number is, 90, whatever that number is now. So we're all going to at some point physically die, but there's more to it than that. There's more. We can't explain a lot of things. You know, when you know, little simple things like the double slit experiment in quantum theory. You know, when you're looking at quantum physics, actually, when you're looking at that, I literally can't talk about it without driving myself crazy, because it just is bizarre. You know what I'm saying?
It is.
So, and we've proven that a million times. There's been so many tests done on that everybody comes to the same conclusion, but nobody knows why.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of a signal to me from the universe that we got some spooky stuff, Einstein's word, going on out there.
That's right. Yeah, and that was one of his words too.
Yeah, and so the energy within all this is, so there is I always believed that everything was marked against me. I was unlucky. I had and I literally manifested and lived that life. That's what I did. And since I've changed that mindset, I literally am living an entirely different life right now.
Yeah.
And I have access to that. Yes, I'm aware I'm going to die. I understand that. I'm not in the delusion that I don't want to live to 150. I have no desire that with this. I'm going to probably come back 150 more times. You know, but I don't want to live to be 150, because there's not a lot you can keep doing over and over. Part of the thing is discovery and learning new things, and you know, the fact that, you know, my background and your background, and where the origins we were born, where we were born, the fact that we have come together with a like mindset, it's statistically impossible if you look at that. It just not even how in the world could that happen? And yet it did. And all of that, my friends always look at, you know, the odds of us running into each other and all these things. It's just, so I'm fascinated by that. So we only win even when we lose. Now, I don't believe. I feel I have emotions. I lost my son, TJ, several years ago. That was a horrible event. I'm never going to frame that as a good event. I will, however, have no doubt that him and our energies will connect again. Something tells me we'll hop on another adventure together. I might die young next time. He might have. I don't know. It's whatever we got going. that energy is going to exist. So when you sort of live life as like it's stacked in your favor, and there isn't a way you can really lose, life becomes really fun.
Yeah, yeah. It's a fascinating thing too. I mean, there's lots of evidence too. People, anybody who's been religiously oriented has had conversations like these over the generations as well. Evidence that God exists and so forth. For me, it's evidence that source energy is real and that we are all energy. One of the coolest examples of that is occurring right now here on Earth. Has been over the last few days. That's the aurora borealis. The sunspots that have generated these particles, huge amounts of charged particles coming to the Earth, and if those, they would normally hit the Earth. Let's be clear about this. They would hit the Earth, and if they hit the Earth, we would be dead, because that's how lethal these are. These would kill. These would wipe out the entire population of the planet. So why don't they? Well, it's because the Earth has this incredible magnetic sphere around it, a magnetosphere they call it. And that magnetosphere basically pushes the particles away. I mean, what are the odds of that?
Yeah.
That's just that's beyond odds. That's just plain insane that anyone could just think that just randomly happen. Well, the Earth is just going to randomly come into place, and then it's going to randomly have this magnetic field so that any time that the sun sends out stuff, it's going to save everybody on Earth. Like, what? I mean, you couldn't give me enough psilocybin to come to that conclusion.
Well, trust me, I could. Don't challenge me. I could give you enough to come with any conclusion, Walt. I promise.
But you get my point, though.
Yeah, I do.
It is just mind-boggling how incredible that setup is, that scenario, that working.
Yes, and the part that I want to and I want to extrapolate on that a little bit, because there's so much of that in play. So we have this, we have this magical electromagnetic field. It covers the Earth to prevent us from the sun's attack. Like, okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like, well, that was well planned, or whatever. Right. And so the idea that all of this is created in some form or fashion, whether how it got there or we bring it about with our thought and our energy, but that's the only way life could exist here. And it's a very resilient system. And that we have here, the very thing I breathe out feeds the trees and plants, which breathe out the very thing I breathe in. Yes. It just is like, does that seem a little convenient to everybody?
Very convenient.
Yeah. So I look at it that way and say, this is all stacked in our favor. It's just, you got to start playing it as it is. You got to start treating it like it is. This is stacked in our favor. And that's where this, taking action without fear, taking action, based on, great success. One thing that I love, there's a lot of criticism about our younger generations, and that may be well warranted in some fashions, I guess. But the one thing that I'm noticing, particularly with a lot of the young people I work with, they aren't as scared to fail as we were.
Yes.
They have reframed failure to being a necessary move forward. Mm-hmm. Failure is growth. Failure is moving forward. And I see that going out there and taking risk and taking chances without fearful of looking silly. Elon Musk launch rockets and say, this isn't even going to work. We're launching it. We know it's going to explode. I just need to know where it's going to explode at. Mm-hmm. Right. And, he televises his explosions. He makes his stock go up with explosions.
Oh, yeah.
It's like one of his rockets exploded. His stock went up 6% one day. Because he framed it like we're expecting this to blow up. But what happened was it made it farther than they thought it would. Right. And then it just got caught in this loop and it started spinning and it just blew up. Yeah. So wow, we exceeded what we thought, so his stock went way up. It's just like, okay, well, so all of this is about the mindset, taking action, how you do it. you get bogged. I can get bogged down in the minutia of life. You know what I mean? You can start looking at all that, and but when you wake up every day and you realize, look, we're here again. We're awake. That's all that matters. Yes, it's not going to go exactly like you planned. There's going to be twists and turns, but yet nonetheless, this is why we're here. We're here to experience it. The ups and the downs. You can't value the ups without the downs.
Actually, I would say the safe bet is that it's not going to be a straight shot. The safe bet is that it is going to be wild, crazy turns all over the place.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's sort of the point. The plot twist scenario. I'm always saying, what's my next plot twist? Well, yesterday my son got shot, so that was a plot twist. There's always a plot twist, and you've just come to expect it. People get upset when there's a plot twist, and yet we know there's always going to be plot twists.
You made the observation that the young generation are much more accepting of the risks. They're willing to go take the risks that the previous generations weren't willing to do. Anne Marie and I were actually talking about this on the earlier show today. We were talking about it in the context. Were we talking during the show? No, actually, I think this may have been after the show. But we were talking about it in the context of her kids. She's blown away. She has two daughters. One's 12 years old. The other one's 8. Particularly with a 12-year-old, she's blown away at how her 12-year-old knows exactly what she wants to go after. Yeah. She knows what she likes, what she doesn't like. She knows what she wants to do. She wants where she wants to go, and so forth. And as I'm thinking back to my own childhood and my schoolmates and so forth, I don't think any of us knew what we wanted. There may have been one or two in there. If there were, they weren't telling me. They weren't sharing their secret.
Right.
Most of us had no freaking clue what we wanted.
Absolutely.
So when I hear the younger generation being more direct about, well, yeah, I know what I want. I know what I'm going after. I'm not saying that's going to be true for everybody in the younger generation, but to hear that that's a trend, whoa.
Well, and I see that as well. I mean, there's a willingness to look at it differently. There's a willingness to, like, I want to go do this. There's a concept in children as they go into adulthood. 8-year-olds want to do everything. 8-year-olds, what do you want to be? I want to be everything. I want to do everything. I want to go on every ride. I want to do all that. And then as the brain matures, that's usually at the full peak of neuroplasticity in the young mind is when you have so many things. So you get down the road 5 years and there's 13. There's a process called neural pruning. And neural pruning is when the brain starts to say, look, we can't do all these things because you're doing a bunch of things, but they're not really, they're scattered. So the brain starts throwing out things like, look, we don't like to do this. We don't like to do this. And they become more focused. So the age timing in her daughter at 12 would make a lot of sense, where she's able to really get laser focused, but based on here's what I want to do. And the neural pruning serves us because it helps us get more specialized in what we're going to pursue. Unfortunately, our education system doesn't really accept that. It wants to send you in a direction of no, this is what you got to learn, but no, this is what I want to do, but that's not, it doesn't matter. You have to learn about, English literature from 1600. It's like, I will tell you, Walt, this probably isn't popular, but what the hell? I mean, I never cared.
It's popular with me, I'll tell you that. I love that.
Yeah. So it's like what? But again, there's people I know that really enjoy it. But my point is, the brains are different. The people are different, and once we accept that, and then allow for individual action, not herd action, allow everybody to sort of figure out what they want to do. That's when we really find the true path. It's when I got out of school, my dad owned an insurance agency, and it was just assumed I was going to go work for him.
Right.
And that's what I did.
Because that's what had happened for generations.
Yes. Yeah. My dad's dad started that business. So I went and did that. That did not work out well for either of us.
No, not really.
At all. And that led to other things. I was sort of rudderless. I can remember walking in the office the first day. It was in late August. And is when my dad let me have the summer off. He said, you'll start at the end of August. And I remember sitting down on that desk going, I cannot do the next 40 years here. I can't. I just knew instinctively I cannot sit behind a desk for 40. It served him well and provided for our family in a very high manner. So I'm grateful that he loved it. But my goodness, I hated that with all my heart.
Yeah. And boy, a lot of thoughts are going through my mind. Like there are 5 different directions we can go right now. And those are just the ones that come in instantly to my mind.
Let's do them all. Go.
But the one I'm going to go with is your reference to how messed up the school system is. And the reason I want to go there is I think it's a great example of what happens when you go deep down that negative spiral.
Yes.
I mean, if there's any great examples, there are a lot of great examples today, but there's one of the best examples today of something that's going down a deep, dark spiral. That's the public education system.
Yes.
And it's going to end badly for the public education system as it is currently configured. It's going to either transition into something much better, or it's going to disappear, or some combination thereof. But it can't continue the route that it's on because it's a route of self-destruction.
It is.
It has to eventually fall apart. Our friend Louis D'Souza made the observation a year or two ago. He said, there's really no point in schools teaching anything that a student can find by doing a Google search.
Right.
And he's absolutely right. Yeah. I mean, there's no point to that at all, which is exactly what schools do. There's another example, another pointer that says, yeah, the thing has to fall apart. It's going to. So here's the question that I want to raise that goes along with that. Isn't that really a good thing?
In my mind, everything evolves. Now, there's a group of people that we need to never change anything.
Mm-hmm.
In 1939, maybe 29, I forget my years, but one of the treatments for insulin deficiency or diabetes in some form?
What's that?
Leeches.
Really?
Yeah. Let's get some blood out of it.
Leeches were like a treatment for anything, right?
Yeah. Now, I'm not saying it was an effective treatment, but
right.
Yeah. So let's suck some blood out of this dude, and that'll help probably. And so, we didn't stick with that. We later came up with some really cool things to help people with, diabetes, and learn how to produce insulin and learn how to manage diets. And we did really good with that. But yet there's a group of people that we need to keep, like this one, I don't get into these debates, but I just observe them. And I will go on record right now, is no one listening has worse handwriting than me. Okay.
Well, I don't know. I might be able to compete with you.
I will challenge you one day.
You'll challenge me. Okay.
I write myself notes and don't know what I wrote.
Me too.
Yeah. So I'm like, what the heck did I write there? So I have terrible handwriting. So all I can do, and I don't write anymore, so I type so much. But if I do have to,
computer is my friend. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So if I have to write it, I have a few things I have to pay by check. Mm. So I have to sit there and very carefully draw. I don't write. I draw letters, and and I hope they come out. So I hear people talking about, that we need to do away with cursive, and nobody cares, and this group cares. Who cares? I don't care. Cursive, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's like the only argument that I ever heard for cursive mattering was they said, well, the Constitution's written in cursive. Well, we quit following that years ago. I don't know why that has nothing to do with anything anymore. Just get rid of that entirely, So, but yet there's a group of people that really think that's a big deal. They just think cursive writing is a really big deal.
Good for them.
Yeah, and I don't mind them thinking that.
Yeah.
But my point is, as we sort of evolve, Google has their own certification thing now, where they will hire you out of high school and train you and pay you and train if you qualify to do this, because they said colleges can't keep up with what we need. They're not. If you're going to get your 4-year degree, what you learn in year 1 is not applicable in year 5 when you're grad. I mean, it's always evolving. Medical school. I heard a doctor tell me this. Medical advances are happening so fast. Medical school is obsolete as it exists now.
Totally.
Because he graduated and he said his first year of medical school, what he learned in his first year, I forget the number, and I forget how he quantified it, but something he said like 30 treatments for various things that were taught in his first year were later deemed ineffective, and they changed it by his fourth year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's evolving so fast, and like he said, it just medical school, for example, is another thing. All the access they need is online, and they have plenty of a lot of stuff they have there that they could get online. So they need to get more focused on specialty and quit memorizing all these diseases and all the other things. You don't need to memorize them anymore. It's all available.
It's kind of pointless too.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you've got Google. If you don't want to know, you just look it up.
Yeah.
Well, although even that's going to change. I mean, I believe it was actually today. There was an announcement from the founders of ChatGPT. I don't even know what the name of it is, but they have come up with their latest innovation, their latest AI innovation, which is already being heralded as a threat to Google.
Well,
the one thing that people would say was impossible. You can't possibly take Google out of the picture. Well, guess what? It's going to start happening. So
well, it may.
That has basically, it's already in the process of wiping out education, and it itself is in the process, long-term process, of being wiped out.
It is. Well, I also will make a point. Google isn't slacking on AI either. So
they're not. No.
Yeah, Google we may have the most epic battle of all time: Google AI versus ChatGPT AI.
Oh, it's going to be fun.
And I will tell you this: Google is much better funded.
They're much better funded.
Yeah. So
funded. Yeah.
I do expect Google will eventually buy ChatGPT, to be honest with you.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how that will work out. That could go either way for me.
Here's $1 trillion. We'll take it.
Yeah, right.
That's how it'll work.
Well, I don't think I can get it. I don't think $1 trillion would buy it. Actually, I think the valuation is going to be high. Well, that's another topic.
Yeah, we'll get an evaluating company.
We'll do that one other day.
Yeah, but my point. But I'm with you. My point is these are exciting. Like stuff like that is exciting. But other people look at, AI is going to take over. This is going to take over. I just think we live in a very exciting time. Most people don't like change, and change is inevitable. Change is growth. Change, you can't grow without change.
So here's the question: if change is inevitable and you can't grow without it, then what happens when it accelerates?
You grow faster,
which means you also go through the pain faster.
Yes,
and probably deeper and faster. I mean, I'm traumatizing people just by saying that. You realize this, right?
Yes. Well, I mean, it is. There are so many people that their biggest fear is change. Everything's changing so fast. I felt sorry for this lady at Kroger. That's our grocery store near my house, and she's maybe 75 years old. She was talking to the cashier, and she said, this coupon, I need the coupon for butter. And the lady said, well, the coupon is digital. And she said, I don't know what that means. And she said, but where can I get the coupon? She said, but it's digital. Yeah. So you have this 19-year-old cashier trying to explain to this 75-year-old what digital means.
Right.
And she was very kind and very patient. And so she said, do you have a phone? And the lady pulls out this flip phone.
Okay.
And she goes, oh, that's not going to work. And she went to this great length to get another person there who had her phone out. Said, do you have the Kroger app and the coupon? So she was able to scan it for her. But this lady she said, I'll never be able to use coupons again because I don't know what just happened. She was very upset that she could never, and she said, on my budget, I really need coupons to make things meet. I just don't know what I want to do. And it's a lot of people that are scared of those kind of changes that haven't been able to adapt, or they're too old to adapt. They're the ones that are most fearful of this, I think.
Oh, yes. I'm reminded of my mom. Yeah. My mom in her last year of her life, last 2 years, really. There were a number of things that she resisted, as most people apparently do, particularly when they approach end of life. But one of the things that she resisted had been something that she had resisted all of her life. And it wasn't even until the last couple of years of her life that I realized that she was resisting them. Up until that point, there were lots of different ways I could explain them away, and so I did. But what I finally came to the realization was she didn't know how she felt about things. She knew how she felt about her family. Her family was very important to her. But in terms of her preferences in life, things that she would want to do and so forth, she had never allowed herself to feel them. And so I kept thinking to myself, wow, is she actually going to finish her life without having experienced anything like that? I mean, is this like a waste of life or something like that? And as soon as I framed the question, I realized, no, she didn't waste anything. She spent an entire lifetime learning how to focus on what she didn't want.
Mm-hmm.
So since I now understand our bodies may die, we go on forever. Her next body hop, I'll kind of use the analogy that you were using earlier. I'll make the analogy of hopping into the next body. Her next body hop is almost certainly going to be taking that information and flipping it around and starting to find some way to embrace what she had previously blocked, what she had previously pushed away.
Well, and again, not to get too far into my personal beliefs, but I think that's sort of the point of all of this. You come here, you have when your mom. My belief is when your mom passed away from this physical form, her energy was restored to the source, and she's automatically connected to all the information, far more than the silly little AI that we're talking about. I mean, we're talking universal. The double slit experiment does not freak your mother out right now. I promise you, and it freaks me out. It freaks me out every day. So she's better off to be on that. So, but I believe that. So, but part of what we're here for is to experience contrast, is to experience different things, the different timing. Also, I don't know this to be true, but I don't know that we always come. I don't think that time is just forward. You may return in another form 50 years ago or 500 years in the future, or I just don't know how all that works, but I just know that we are energy, and energy can't be contained. It exists. It can't be killed. And it has, and as we know, when light can be influenced by humans observing it, there's far more that we don't know than we do know. That one thing is the most impressive thing. So anybody that starts getting on, it's like, we don't know why light. How does the light know we're looking at it? Tell me. Somebody tell me how the light knows we're observing it.
Yeah.
And
it's true. It's exciting. It's thrilling. It's terrifying, and it's all mixed up in one.
It is, but that's you just described it perfectly. That's life: exciting, exhilarating, terrifying. That's why we're here for all of that, to experience the good, the bad, the ugly, the horrors of losing loved ones, the excitement of having babies or accomplishments and all that. We're here for that reason. We view them as good or bad based on human beliefs here, but they're experiences. It's the haunted house. It's the roller coaster. It's the amusement park. It's like, how can we not love that?
And when you tie all that into the idea of an action piece, now the action piece actually takes on a whole new level of meaning.
Yes.
Because with that level of understanding, then it becomes very easy to take action.
Yes. Action is key. Action is everything. Mindset combined with action, and you're undefeatable. You'll figure it out. And if you can accept that some actions are not going to be the right action, but they will be actions that teach you that didn't work, here's another action.
If it weren't for the fact that you hate baseball, I'd be giving you an analogy about hitting the ball out of the park right now. So we'll go with the long bomb for the touchdown instead. But we basically we threw the Hail Mary and it got caught. That's
exactly. I mean, yeah, you did that. I mean, and I don't hate baseball.
You just fall asleep during it.
I fall asleep during it. It does put. I can watch about a half inning without falling asleep. It's pretty good.
Okay. Well, yeah. One step at a time. I'll take one step.
I think they need more time in between pitchers and between pitches. I think we need to adjust our genitals more often. Those are apparently very. Is there a stat for that, Walt?
There probably is.
Yeah,
There
yeah,
are
he,
stats for everything.
yeah. He adjusts his testicles 3 times a game versus.
Okay. I think that's our signal that we've run out of time.
we probably need to end on that.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I always know that we've had a good show when I come out at the end laughing or smiling or feeling good. And I'm doing all 3 right now.
It's fantastic. Great show tonight, my friend.
Thank you so much. Thank you to our podcast listeners everywhere. See you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.